Good stuff. We've got a question over there.
What are you most excited about the kind of current technology that we have and going forward from here?
Well, I'd say right now, probably the most interesting thing I think a lot of people are excited about is the new ray casting technology that NVIDIA has come out with, the RTX technology. That's basically like making movies in real time, and having reflective surfaces on every single surface, reflecting the entire environment on a super high frame rate. It's really amazing looking stuff. And that's a really cool rendering technology. Machine learning is awesome. Actually using it in the game will be cool at some point. Like, there really aren't any games doing that. But you know, it will be cool to have AIs learning from the way that you go through levels in a competitive online game. And using machine learning just for cool AI. But when it comes down to, like, when people are making games right now, you still have to program, even though you have gigs of memory and you have gigahertz worth of speed, we still have to be super efficient with how we program our stuff, because we're using other people's engines. We're using Unity or we're using Unreal, and those engines do a lot of stuff. They eat a lot of cycles that you don't get. And so you still have to be super efficient in the way that you program and organize your data and the objects that work in your game to still get a good frame rate and to get a game running at a decent speed. So it's not like you can just go nuts nowadays because everything's so fast and everything's parallel and all that. Unity is a single-threaded application. You can't really do parallel stuff. So you're still on a single core. Even if you have a PC that's got 10 cores in it, you're still running on one with the Unity. So we still have to be super efficient.
Cheers. Hey,
Hello.
what's your view about the current sort of monetization in AAA gaming, for example, like loot boxes and microtransactions and things like that? And also, how do you keep your hair looking so luscious?
Let's talk about the hair first. People have asked questions about my hair forever, which is really funny. And I think back in the 90s, there was a Dear Minx column, and I basically said, shampoo and condition my hair. And then I blow dry it, and I use some hair oil on it, and that's about it. But really, it's all genetics. It's because I'm Yaqui Indian, Native American, and Cherokee, and the Yaqui are from basically the Mexico region, the U.S. and the Mexico and the Sonoran area. So I'm Mexican as well. And so my family's history, they just have very long hair, and that's the reason why. So the next question was
microtransactions.
About microtransactions. Microtrans has been it's like Facebook is really where it started. You know, the microtransactions and getting frictionless payments where you can just spend 10 cents without thinking about it and just do lots of that. And there's lots of microtrans around episodic purchases. It's not as micro at that point, but it's still episodic premium kind of stuff. And we've done basically every version of monetization that exists, I think, in all the companies that I've worked with. In loot boxes, I really like loot boxes, but not pay-to-win loot boxes. Pay-to-win basically kills a game. You know, so whoever has the most money, they win, you know. For cosmetic stuff, it's perfect. It's awesome. People love cosmetics. I mean, you can still make insane amounts of money doing cosmetic microtrans stuff, and you don't have to resort to pay-to-win stuff. In fact, in China, there was a Lineage was a huge MMO in China. And China is massive. There's like a billion people in China. And the east coast of China is where all the money is. That's where Shanghai is at. That's where Beijing, all this is where people have cash. West China is farmers, right? So these people really don't have hardly any money, but there's internet cafes over the entire country. And the only way that they're gonna make money in Lineage, which is a microtrans game, is to basically have people buy stuff. All the money is being put into the game on the East Coast. So what they did at Lineage is they had these like sales guys or marketing guys go out to tons of internet cafes, make calls, go on location, and tell the internet cafe owners, just basically get information. Do you get a lot of people coming in here? They're all farmers way out there. And they're like, yeah, they come in, but they can't really spend much money because it's expensive to be online, and they don't spend money in games because they don't have any money. So what they decided to do was let the people who spent the most time in those internet cafes online, give those people free access to Lineage and give them weekly allowances. So they get free in-game cash that they can then spend. So they're not making, it's not hurting the company to give digital cash away, right? As long as those people are paying for the time and stuff, they'll want to pay. The internet cafe guy wants this to happen because these farmers will spend money to be online longer than they have been, because these people will be in an MMO, super excited because they have all this money to spend. And when you spend money in the game, you look really cool, right? Well, the company knew that this was going to happen. They were going to give these people all this money. People had no money. They're giving them digital money. They're spending all of this money on looking really amazing in the game, and the people on the East Coast are going nuts that all of these people in the game all of a sudden look better than them, and it makes them really spend money. This is real money, right? Because they're super competitive. Because in China, it's only money that matters. How you got the money doesn't matter. If you stole something from somebody else, who cares that you stole something? It's the fact that you have the money that matters, that your status is higher. And so they want these people on the East Coast to pay like crazy, because that's where all the money is, and that's where all the money came. Basically, got Lineage and made Lineage 2 and everything because of the competitiveness within the game made these people dump tons of money, even though they had no idea it was all free. That these people were doing all this stuff for free. It was interesting psychology. But microtrans is always evolving. I mean, shareware is an interesting version of microtrans where it's free to play and it's by the episodes. It's like premium purchase when you get the episodes off of a demo. In fact, before we put Wolfenstein and those games out, there were no such things as demos for games. There was nothing on the front of a magazine, a CD, like none of that stuff existed. And then when our games came out and everybody wanted to play them, the LucasArts and everybody else had to put demos on the covers of these magazines to compete because they needed to show people, no, buy our game, forget that Doom,
Other question? A couple over this side.
Hi. I had a query about how you would share data when you were collaborating pre-internet. So you mentioned working with Raven, and you were overseeing that and designing that. And how would they actually get like a build to you that you could then have an opinion on?
So in working with Raven, we had modems. So I could get a zip of the latest build then. But really, if you're talking about source control, there wasn't any source control back then. So if we were working on a game together, which we were doing forever, right, for years, we would have 3.5-inch discs, and we had cool pictures on them and stuff. We'd draw these pictures on the disc, so we knew whose disc it was. And basically just copy our C files over to the disc. And if I take John Carmack's C files and I copy them over, I'm not going to overwrite any of mine because I'm only getting the ones that he did, and we absolutely never touch each other's C files because then we have to merge, which never happened. Like, merges would never happen. So it was just like, these are your files, and I will never touch them. And if I needed something in a header, I would tell him I need something in a header, and he would put it in the header, and then I get to copy it. But it was like, there was no merging ever. So it was just copies, floppy is like sneakernet, people called it. Where you just give people, we were just handing 3.5s to everybody, getting them back after they copy it. Tom or Adrian does art, gives it to Tom. Tom makes things work together. Then he gives us copies. So it's just like a lot of manual stuff until November of 1991, which we then finally got a Novell 3.11 network server, and then we were on a office net, just the four of us. And then we could actually just have everything in one directory. We still had no source control. So we still had to make a backup directory and just copy everything into it. And it was like, there was no source control at id, like while I was there. So I left in 96, there still wasn't source control. And I didn't use source control until like 2001 or something, maybe. Yeah.
Hey, how did working with Trent Reznor on the soundtrack to Quake come about, and what was that like? Was he a jerk? Was he kind of
No,
cool?
he's super cool. Trent is a really, really smart guy. He was, after Doom came out, like, I can't even, like, overstate how much explosion happened in the world, around us at least. We had stuff coming in all the time, and people were making music, and like Guar was this really crazy group that was nuts about us, and you know, they wanted to give us concert tickets, go to concerts for free and stuff. And when we got a company called ICM in Hollywood to kind of represent us in Hollywood for any possible things that we could do, because there could be book deals, licensing deals with our IP. In fact, that's how we got the Universal Studios license. You know, we licensed them Doom so they could actually make the Doom movie. And this was in the 90s, far before the one came later in 2006. So with the agent that was our agent for ICM, his name was Bill Block, and he represented Nine Inch Nails. And so when he started representing us, and he just talks to people, and they said, "Oh my God, we play Doom Deathmatch on our tour bus every day." Like Nine Inch Nails had PCs on their tour bus, and after concerts or whatever, they go and they just deathmatch, and they did that all the time. So they loved the game, and this is when we're making Quake that we heard about it, and we're like, "Oh, it'd be really cool to have them do music for Quake," because we decided that we wanted to move beyond MIDI, which was Bobby Prince's like his expertise was in MIDI, and he wasn't making music like, say, you know, like real CDs out there, like pure digital music like that. So and everybody liked Nine Inch Nails, so it's like, well, they like us, so why don't we just talk to them about doing music? And they basically said, yeah, let's talk. And so Trent Reznor and Chris Brenna came out, and like basically limo pulls up in front of the building. Somehow women know that he's coming. You know, in the middle of nowhere in Texas, there's all these women in front of the building, and he gets out and like comes in the building, and they just wait for him to come back out, you know, hours later. And he just comes up, and we just talk about the ideas for it and stuff that we could do, and then we go out and have dinner and hang out and stuff like that. And did that, you know, several times during basically 1995 and some of 96. And it ended up that Chris Brenna did a lot of the music on Quake. He did most of the music, but Trent worked with him on it and did voices and all that kind of stuff. But Chris is the one that really did a lot of the stuff on there. And before we could get their music, Trent had this other friend who did really great ambient stuff, and he got us a bunch of MP3s of really cool ambient tracks that we could actually play in Quake while we're making the game. And it's kind of funny to think about it, but we were making Quake when we're on a network, and all the MP3s were on a network drive, and we're streaming from the network to our computers in MP3s in 1995. And we're listening to cool ambient stuff that Trent did not make, but his friend did, and it sounds really great. And when we get to the point where we can now get the music from Trent, because Trent Reznor is working on the stuff, it's so legally tied up with Interscope Records that there had to be 12 signatures just to make it so we could put his music on a CD, and it was not allowed to be in MP3s. Which is why people, when they play Quake, don't hear the music, because it's on a CD. And when you install the game, you just put the CD back somewhere, but that's where all the music is. So not that many people heard the music other than the first time they played the game, because at some point you got to take the CD out of the drive, you know. And every other game that we made never had the CD. You didn't need the CD in the drive. So most people didn't hear the music until recently. You know, if you use Dark Places is a really great source port of the original code, and it will use MP3 and OGG versions of Quake's music. So now you can actually play the game with the music playing constantly. But it was a big hassle trying to get through all that and then be limited in only being able to put, because Interscope didn't do games, so they only understood on a CD, it's the only place you put music, so we couldn't digitally do it because then people just copy it. So anyway, it was really cool, but because of all of those issues, we decided not to work with people who were super famous like that and have all these legal tie-ups,
So I had a question around the middle, something like that.
Because Doom is compatible with all these softwares and all these devices, do you think it'd be possible to port it to, let's say, an original Game Boy?
The original Game Boy, you probably could. I mean, Doom's out there on a VIC-20, so yeah, I think you could.
Any more questions before we let John go? We've got a couple more things to do yet.
What is-
Is this on?
what are your opinions on Doom 2016?
I really liked the game. I liked the single-player version of it. I didn't like the multiplayer because it was basically Halo. Doom never had loadouts or any of that stuff. But the single-player was super cool. I really liked it. It was fast. It was super intense. Before the game came out, I thought that those, I don't know what you call them, gruesome kills, I thought that those were just going to get too repetitive and didn't think that they were good, but like a good part of the game. But after you play it, that's all you want to do. And I love doing that. Anyway, I really liked it. I thought it was great. Good secrets, great ambience, super fast frame rate. It wasn't pitch black all the time. You could actually see stuff, I really liked it. I thought they did a great job, which is the reason why they're still around right now, is because it did such a good job. And this is after 7 years and 3 reboots of making the game. They finally did it. And so as a team, they're super happy that they could actually pull it together and get the right people working on it. And I'm sure they're going to work on Doom 5 and not hand it off to some other company to do, but do it themselves.
So the competition then, we did have quite a few entries. Most people had a go. We did have some quite near misses though. For the five games of the picture quiz, somebody put Doom Hack, Cartoon Doom, Fantasy World Doom, Doom Among Thieves, Doom with a Vengeance. We've got Pong, Action Girls Racing, Red Dead Redemption, Halo, and Debbie Does Dallas for some reason. Alphabet Simulator 2, the Skegness Day Out, The Naughty Religious Man, Prostate Checker End Times, and another Debbie Does Dallas. I think there's some collusion there.
Interesting.
But the winner, the one who got the most right, is Richard Hare. Where are you, Richard? Come up to the front. And I'm sure John will present you with the book.
All right, here we go. Congratulations. Good job.
Final thing, did you think of one thing about Doom you haven't told anyone before?
Yeah, let's see. Brenda came up with this one. My mom deathmatched in Doom for the first time just 2 years ago. Not that you would think that your parents would ever deathmatch in a game, but she had never played Doom before. So she deathmatched for the first time, and it was pretty funny. And she didn't know that that Doom was that big of a game. She didn't know really how big it was until the Smithsonian inducted Doom into its Hall of Fame, and then she's like, oh my, wow, the Smithsonian. And then she came to GDC to see me talk, and then she saw that people knew who I was at GDC. So she thought that I actually did something.
Maybe you did have a real job.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Maybe you got a real job after all.
Yeah, I got a real job.
Yeah. Obviously, I want to thank John immensely, particularly for the... Thank you, John.
All right.